Hey everybody, welcome to the Monday edition of RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Today is Monday, November 2nd. That's right, it's November. It's the day before Election Day. Thank God, it's almost over. Now, there'll be the commentary afterwards, blah, blah, blah. But we'll move on because there's plenty of stuff to digest on the football field itself from Week 8. Chris, and not all of it was good. There was a lot of stuff that was hard to digest. If you're a Jonathan Taylor owner, things were not good. If you had pieces of the Niners offense for three quarters, it wasn't good. And, not good at all if you had Jimmy Garoppolo. But where do you want to start?
Well, first off, thanks for coordinating the colors of the video cast with me. I really appreciate that, Jeff.
I'm here.
I asked you. I thought it was a big ask. But we're a team here with this video cast, and we show it with the uniform.
Yeah, but except you had the black undershirt, dude. You messed it up. Supposed to be gray.
A navy blue RotoWire undershirt.
Oh, well, you're doing team colors then too. Impressive.
I do a lot. Yeah. So a couple things. So I had Garoppolo in 2 leagues that I picked up. What a nutless monkey Garoppolo is. I mean, if you have a bad ankle, just say you have a bad ankle and miss the game. This is like a pitcher going in with a sore arm, getting shelled for 8 runs, leaving in the first inning and being like, yeah, I wasn't really feeling right. I tried to gut it out. No, just tell them before the game. That's incredibly annoying. Okay. Secondly, I have Jonathan Taylor in a couple leagues. And I had him in like the top 15 overall a couple weeks after Marlon Mack got hurt and he started taking over the role. I mean, I was hoping for Adrian Peterson. I was willing to settle for Leonard Fournette. But I think we're looking at Trent Richardson without the good rookie year. I mean, Trent Richardson didn't play great his rookie year, but he had good fantasy stats. But Jordan Wilkins is not going to go away now. Jordan Wilkins is going to be in that mix. Nyheim Hines is going to be in that mix. Maybe because of the draft capital, they'll force Taylor in, but his value is on the ropes. I mean, this is a crisis right now.
I agree.
Jonathan Taylor.
I'd agree. It wasn't just that goal line sequence. It was all game.
I mean, he does not find daylight, and it's not just a game or two. This has been like 6 games. There's just not that running free in space, making people miss, getting to the outside, all the things that a high-quality running back does. And then you see Jordan Wilkins doing it effortlessly. And at first you're like, wait, why is Jonathan Taylor struggling? That's supposed to be a really good offensive line. But then Wilkins looks like he's running behind a good offensive line. So I really don't know. Rivers' lack of arm strength isn't really helping, but it's all dump-offs and stuff. But, again, Wilkins was fine. Maybe they're like, oh, Jonathan Taylor, the marquee pedigreed prospect, is in the game. We got a key on him. But whatever the reason, he's on the ropes.
Yeah, I get a kind of Jordan Howard sort of vibe from him, where
Howard was good.
Yeah, he was, but it became one of those one-dimensional guys on offense. That's my point. It got to the point where you were thinking, okay, he's on the field. There's no way they're going to run like that little wheel route that they ran with Hines so well against the Lions. That's taken off the table. Maybe he's not good at pass pro either, for that matter. And so that's taken off the table. It kind of just, okay, let's stack the line then. Here comes another run.
Yeah, it might be that. I just haven't seen. I mean, I was watching Barkley on the Giants, and he was getting swallowed up before he had a chance to go anywhere. And if you didn't know anything, you might be like, who's this scrub Barkley? He got drafted so high. But if you've seen Barkley play enough, you're like, that he's good. So maybe it's that. But, there's been a lot of, Fournette is very ordinary as an early down runner. We know that Trent Richardson, who was the 3rd overall pick, was actually bad as an early down runner. David Montgomery is, he's not that high of a pedigree guy, but he was still a reasonably early round running back pick for an NFL team. Just doesn't have the wiggle, doesn't have the decisiveness, doesn't hit the hole fast enough, doesn't see where it is. And at a certain point, it's like the sample gets large enough that the explanation doesn't matter. It's just not happening.
Yeah, that's right. And so we got a problem on our hands the rest of the season. His bye is done, so you're going to have to make decisions every single week with him. Are you going to play him or not? Next week, we'll see what, you'll have to see what happens to the rest of your roster, but, he's going to be hard to start.
Yeah, I've got Darrell Henderson, him, Nick Chubb, to go along with Kamara. So I thought I had like an embarrassment of riches at running back in the prime time. I was like, I can't even get Darrell Henderson in my lineup because I've got Chubb and Taylor. And now, Chubb maybe back in a couple of weeks. That's what I'm waiting for. But Taylor's, as you said, almost unstartable. And then, Richardson's hurt. So Henderson's hurt. So
yeah,
that's an issue.
Boy, do the Rams look terrible on offense. Oh,
well, I don't see why this is that surprising. I know their offensive line has played better, but Goff we know is average.
Yeah.
Kupp is pretty good. He's a nice slot guy. He's quick, but he's not like a destroy you, take over the game type of guy. I got 21 targets for 100 yards this week. And then Robert Woods is just a guy also, decent route runner, but not, he's not like an imposing matchup. No Brandon Cooks to stretch the defense. So what do they have? There's no peak Todd Gurley, who was an elite running back. They don't really have Darrell Henderson looks good when he plays, but there's nothing they have that really worries you at all. And so it's all scheme and misdirection, and it's all just craftiness. There's no matchup that you fear from the Rams.
Yeah, that's right. They just don't. They can't take it off the top. Even if they had Cooks, I don't think Goff is that quarterback to kind of be best. Maybe he needs that, and just the threat of that is good enough. But they don't have the over-the-top option. They never take shots. Never. Josh Reynolds is not that guy.
No, and Van Jefferson I thought would get more run this year. He did for a couple weeks, and they kind of shelved him. He played a little bit this past week, but I don't know. I don't really see the solution for them. Their defense is good, but it's hard to play defense in 2020. There's just too many rules, too many penalties that can be called against the defense. I just don't see a real ceiling for the Rams.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey got hurt in this game too, so that even the defense could be a little bit of struggle. Although, they shut down Tua. I mean, and the Dolphins. The Dolphins' offense was just moribund. They just took advantage of all the turnovers from the Rams.
Yeah, I don't think you could really make a decision on it because you have a rookie quarterback in his first start. You're up 28-10 before you can blink.
Right.
And so they're just going to run it super vanilla and conservative. One thing about Tua that I noticed, the only thing I could really notice that in a game like that was his release is so quick. Like he just has this weird flick where he gets the ball and he flicks it out to the guy. It's not like he has to like cock the ball and like make a throwing motion. It's just like this flick. It was like when we used to play softball with Brendan Ryan, and he would field the ball and just flip it at 100 miles an hour right to the first baseman. You'd be like, dude, like that came out of his hands so fast, and with velocity. And this one, it looks like he just flicks the ball quickly, and that is an advantage. I couldn't tell in the, given the way the game was going, what kind of an advantage that is, but it is an advantage. It was accurate and quick.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see what if that's something, if that's the thing. Obviously, people who scout college football probably already aware of that, but it was kind of weird the way he would get the ball out so quickly.
That's right. And honestly, it just you got to give it a little bit of time on this one here. But for at least one game, pretty difficult game. Didn't do a whole lot. If you had Devontae Parker, you got the touchdown. That was his only catch. Mike Gesicki, one catch. This is too bad. About 2 bad weeks in a row for Gesicki, and a lot of bad weeks actually. He's like all feast or famine. That's one thing I'm kind of looking at with him. But yeah, tough all around. I guess when you throw for 100 yards, nobody's having a good day.
I'm not worried about Tua. I mean, I'm worried about him in the sense that he could be a bust like anyone else, but I'm not worried about him based on that game.
No, I agree. And that's a tough start. They draw Arizona, which is not easy of a start either, at Arizona this week. So Patrick Peterson will probably be on Parker. It's bad for Parker, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, as long as they don't get 2 defensive touchdowns and a couple of other turnovers early, it's going to be it's just that game flow is totally wrecked. That's
true. That's actually a good point. Couple other games. We got to talk a little Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Pittsburgh, I thought Baltimore had him down. And Baltimore, I mean, let's face it, Lamar Jackson was awful. They lost a lot of offensive linemen in this game. But Pittsburgh had to rally in this game and was able to do so. They had a couple huge defensive stands. They get things done.
Well, I mean, I had the Ravens as my best bet. They were up 17-7. The only points the Steelers had at the half was a pick six.
Yep.
Lamar Jackson personally turned it over 4 times, and the Ravens are still driving at the end of the game. The Ravens averaged six yards per play. The Steelers averaged 4 yards per play or 4.2 or something like that. Or it was 5.8 to 4 yards per play. Yeah. The Ravens were the better team, in my opinion. It's just that Lamar Jackson made way too many mistakes. There were 110 penalty yards. Some of it was ticky-tack. And, of course, losing Ronnie Stanley is huge. So despite losing him, they that was in the first quarter, so they outplayed them. I think the Steelers were a little sluggish to start also because they had a war with the Titans, who probably also suffered the after effects of that war in their game. But the Ravens, without Ronnie Stanley and and with Lamar Jackson playing the way he is, I don't see them as a serious contender. They're a gimmick team. They're like, I don't know. I know John Harbaugh's a good coach, but I wouldn't put them in the top 5 NFL teams to win the Super Bowl now.
Yeah, losing Stanley's huge. I'll say J.K. Dobbins looks the part. I want to see if they can keep feeding him the ball a little bit more. That's one thing. The Ingram injury kind of forced this hand, but you knew they drafted him in the second round for a reason. They knew he had the talent, and he was like not just like open field. He was breaking some tackles, showed some power too.
Yeah, that's a tough run defense. All three, the Steelers never give up any rushing yards, and they gave up 3 50-yard rushers in the same game, including a 100-yard rusher in Dobbins. So it's kind of a crazy thing. But the Ravens, basically half their passing yards, more than half, was Willie Snead on just totally busted plays. There's almost nothing to Marquise Brown. He got a touchdown, but that was it for 3 yards. Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson's just not – he's just herky-jerky.
He is. He's
I don't
off.
know.
He's definitely off. After the game, Marquise Brown tweeted his displeasure with the 2 targets from the game. And I have Mark Andrews in my primetime league, and
so do I.
Still had a pretty good week. I had 160 points. DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson cure a lot of ills, but I'm worried about that. You spend a significant draft capital on someone like that. You want the production. You want the regular targets, and he's not getting that anymore.
Yeah, it's the passing game is just a mess.
It is.
It's weird. Has Lamar Jackson been solved? Is that basically what happened? Is that RG3 is a rookie. Now this is Lamar Jackson's 3rd year, but last year was kind of a rookie year because he didn't play the first half in 2018. Only played the last 6 or 7 games, then the playoffs. So last year was his first year being completely unleashed on the league and passing along with the running. MVP, deserved it, had a great year. But has he been solved? RG3 had that run pass option. It was so effective as a rookie. Then he got hurt, unfortunately. But are these gimmicky things that get solved? They're impossible to stop until you really figure out a game plan for it. And then once you kind of have the game plan, that's it. The guy has to take another step as a passer. Otherwise, it's over.
Yeah, maybe. It's here's the thing. We always ask these questions, but there's no control. It's we changed a lot of different elements. We changed the Ravens offensive line. That's a big aspect of it. Your best ever offensive lineman retires. Okay, well that's a pretty big aspect.
But they still had a Pro Bowl All-World tackle until yesterday.
Yeah.
And so that, maybe Yonda was the Jenga piece that when you pull it, the thing collapses. But
right.
And Hayden Hurst was a good blocker too. Remember, they got rid of him.
Yeah.
Although I think Nick Boyle or the other guy's pretty good too blocking. But it's just it's really, for an offense that was such a machine last year to look so just out of it. And they moved the ball well. It's just there's just no rhythm. There's no sort of okay. When you're watching, obviously the Chiefs or the Seahawks are the gold standard. But when you're watching a good offense of any kind, get into a rhythm, run for a 6-yard gain, throw for a 12-yard gain, run for a 4-yard gain, throw for a 7-yard gain, and just get into a rhythm and then gash them with the big plays. They bring the safeties up because they're getting beat up too much on first downs. You're like, okay, here's an offense I can trust. And the Ravens offense was kind of like that last year. It was just unstoppable. And now it's just all a bunch of randomness. Him running around there. Yeah, there's no sense of rhythm. And it's kind of like the Cardinals, although, give me Kyler Murray straight up over Lamar Jackson in fantasy and reality. I don't even think it's that close.
I don't know about reality yet because I'm not sold on Murray as a passer either, for that matter.
But I think he's got more touch. It's he's herky-jerky too, but I think, the ball that he throws is Lamar Jackson seems to zip it at 100 miles an hour all the time. Everything's a line drive cannon. and Murray's got a little more arc and touch on it. He's got a little bit of the Russell Wilson passing, like a little bit of that rainbow, which is a little bit easier to catch.
Yeah, it's funny because the Ravens, that's the team you spend all offseason to try to solve. And so they're up to like a harder test right now. I think that's part of the issue too. You can't do that with every franchise. I feel like you probably Arizona, you do some prep, but let's face it, Seattle and San Francisco are worried about each other more than they're worried about Arizona, for instance, right now.
Well, I just think that the more gimmicky the guy is, the more it's just solve this problem and then you've got it. Do this thing to stop this thing that they do and it's over. Whereas the more the guys like Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson, where it's not like a gimmicky thing that they do, it's just they can do it all.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing to figure out how to solve because there is no solution. The solution is going to be one of those Belichick games where you contain, you bend but don't break, you give up yards, you try to limit, Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman now, which is another interesting development. He seems to be part of the offense again.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure he'll let me down as soon as I put him back in the lineup. But, you limit the deep guys and let them throw the short stuff, or you take away Kelsey and Hill and let them beat you with somebody else. I mean, when you're dealing with like Wilson or Mahomes, you don't get to stop them. You just have to just make it just a tiny bit harder for them, and they might still beat you anyway. And I think that's the difference between them and a guy. Now, maybe Lamar Jackson can transcend that. Maybe he can,
right.
be like, okay, now I'll just do this, and there won't be a solution. But right now, it seems like they're a little bit solved.
Yeah, I that's the thing is, they have to change the equation. They have to add another element there. They have to change something there, and they probably need time to do it. But they were coming off a bye also. They had a little bit more time this past week, and they still weren't able to kind of get completely on track. I mean, they did. I mean, they moved the ball. Don't give me,
they moved it a ton. They moved it a ton, and they were fine against the Steelers. It's just that the 4 turnovers are just unacceptable. You can't turn it over 4 times, and some of those throws are just dumb. There was another one that I think was like a dropped pick where you should have had another one. It was just, it was like just sloppiness. It was just this cavalier, Jay Cutler-esque, flip the ball up into traffic. It was just, and because he doesn't have the other polish of like just going through progressions, like making like incredible decisions and throws, it just looked like he was very limited. And you're seeing Josh Allen get exposed. You're seeing I just wrote a thing about how we're in a new paradigm where pocket passing is nice, but you need the running element. And I kind of still think that's true, but now you're seeing some of these running quarterbacks get exposed the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. And I wonder about that too. Are they just, is this just, are they getting schemed against? Could it be the weather? Who knows? I mean, I think it's they have to resolve. That these offensive coordinators need to help them too to unlock that. I mean, you can't just run the same thing. Okay, we're just going to run our thing, and they're not going to be able to stop us. Well, okay, they stopped us. Now what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was okay. They moved the ball. The turnovers were killer, but if there weren't turnovers, they would have won that game comfortably. But Big Ben didn't look great either, by the way. On the other side, the Ravens defense looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But and it can't just be, Lamar Jackson just has to not make those bad decisions. I don't know what the coordinator can do for him in that instance. And they have to get the ball to Mark Andrews, and obviously Steelers are a good pass rush. Losing your Pro Bowl left tackle, that's a tough order. But you got to get the ball to Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. You got to get the ball in the hands of playmakers, even if you yourself are a playmaker.
Yeah. Speaking of the Steelers, listen to who they draw the next 3 weeks: Cowboys, Bengals, Jaguars. That seems pretty good. So, is that something you'd be interested in?
Now. The Bengals are a team now, though. I mean, it's a good matchup, for offense. But the Bengals had a little bit of pass rush. Their secondary played well. They shut down A.J. Brown. And, Henry got his, but he didn't kill them, partly because of game flow. But the Bengals did not look soft. They looked normal. They looked like an average defense.
Right. And even the Cowboys, I mean, it's hard to tell. Wentz is so damn bad. Even the Cowboys showed a little bit of fight last night, although that game was just a slap fight. It was so ugly.
Dude, that game, it was hard to watch, even the 40-minute version.
Yeah.
And that's with the Eagles. I was laying 7.5 with the Eagles. I had Rieger going in a couple leagues. Although I sat him in that one where I asked the question. I didn't use A.J. Green, thank God. And then I also had Wentz, which wasn't great in a couple leagues over Burrow. But the point is that game was bad, even though it mostly went my way, and I only had to watch it for 40 minutes. It was still a difficult watch. But it was a miracle, that defensive touchdown to cover the spread. I had the Eagles defense going. It was just a miracle. It was like, I don't deserve this cover. And even to the end, like the Cowboys almost backdoored it. But what a total shit show.
Yeah, it was. It completely was. The Cowboys were just running all these gimmick plays. Cedric Wilson was heavily involved in stuff. Cooper didn't get a target till the second half, although I think there's some conflict on that. But that's at least what the broadcast was saying last night. But point was, he was invisible for a really long stretch of time again. And Darius Slay was hurt. It wasn't a Slay thing. It was just they were more invested in the gimmick than Cooper and Lamb, which doesn't make any sense.
Well, they didn't trust that they could get it done straight up.
Yeah.
What was funny was there was one point they were up 9-7. It was like mid-third quarter. They're driving, and they're just like pounding the ball, and it's working. Like Pollard's getting big runs. Zeke's getting big runs. They had like 6 runs in a row. They were at like the 40, 35.
They're at the 25.
At the 25. And then they try a weird reverse to Cedric Wilson, lose 10 yards for no reason. I mean, there was just no point in doing that. Then they're out of field goal range. How do they get the ball? Anyway, the Eagles. Oh, he maybe missed a field goal.
He missed the long field goal, the 54-yarder after that. Yeah.
The Eagles get the ball back, score the touchdown, and cover the spread. It was just a beautiful thing that McCarthy did that. It was a total unforced error to do that trick play.
Yeah. And it looked like Wilson wanted to throw on that play, but he just had no time whatsoever. Because you notice, on that play, DiNucci was they were trying to do a Philly special to Philly, is what I thought. And, Fletcher Cox sniffed it out and just smothered him. And you're right. That just destroyed a great drive. That's the one thing. And you're the Cowboys. You're playing for field goals. Don't do anything to get yourself out of field goal position.
It was pretty bad, but it was exactly what I needed. So I was very happy to see it.
Yeah. Jalen Reagor looked pretty good. Had one drop, but he made a couple plays. Fulgham is still a player. He's still a thing. Wentz was terrible. He was horrible. We were always saying hey, he's got the Steelers. Put him in your top 7. He's got the Cowboys. Put him in your top 10. Put him in your top 5. Put him over Lamar Jackson. Not so much.
I started him over Joe Burrow, and it cost me 10 points. It's the turnovers. One thing, though, the Cowboys can rush the passer, and the Eagles' offensive line is terrible. And Wentz could not step into throws. It was like he just was trying to turn around. He scrambles pretty well back there, and he's trying to when he's smart in the sense he scrambles away from the first rusher, and then you're trying to set your body to throw. But you kept seeing him trying to set his body, and there was another rusher on him, and he couldn't ever step into anything. And so maybe even when you're not being rushed, you're so used to being off your rhythm and off your form that you start just chucking it off the back foot. But he was bad, but that line is really a problem, and I don't know that it gets better. I don't really know how they get better.
He's got a little bit of Dimes issue too with awareness though too, because that first fumble, he had time. He bought the time. He was outside the pocket. You just got to throw it away, and his internal clock wasn't there. We always talk about these guys that buy time, try to make the play, how they're more vulnerable to sacks and fumbles. Well, that was the consequence of that.
Yeah, you saw that stat where Dimes has been pressured 43% of the time, and the next highest was 33%, which was the Jets or Darnold or Wentz or the Bengals. Those are all in the low 30s. So Dimes, yes, he gets sacked, yes, he fumbles, but nobody is even in position to be sacked and fumbled nearly as much as him.
That's true.
Now, he might be causing some of those pressures because he does hold the ball too long, but the Giants' offensive line is abominable. This is going to be a very interesting game tonight with the best pass rush.
It's a very interesting thing. All right. Speaking of offensive lines and Joe Burrow had 5 new starters on the offensive line yesterday against the Titans. Titans didn't get a sack all day. Not one sack.
Well, think about this, Jeff. Let's say you get a really bad hand in poker and you're playing some sort of draw and you're allowed to swap all 5 cards. You may as well just swap all 5 cards. It's like there's no reason to just draw 3. So I think that's kind of how that worked out. And
I think you're right. I think you're right. There's something to that there. And Burrow's so good. I'm so happy to have him. I just don't get Andrew Luck in his career. That's all I'm hoping for now. Is they got to get that offensive line improved by the time before he becomes expensive. But he looks so good. And granted, I think the Titans have a way of making you look good. But there was one play, for instance, where he bought the time, ended up with this like a 6-yard run. And
I saw that. Should have been sacked like 3 times, and he kept wriggling out of it. He's good. He's also just has the mentality, right? Like, so he gets sacked or he makes a bad play or they lose a tight game. You still have the same poised,
right,
focused guy the next week or the next play. He just has a good mentality for an athlete. He just seems like he's just his focus is really good.
Yeah, the only time he looked overmatched was the Baltimore game. That game, he looked overwhelmed, and it was like, okay, it's finally gotten to him. But then he bounced back the next week, and you just like seeing that. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed on this team, but for one day, it was good to be a Bengals fan, especially when you saw all these other offenses struggling, and the Bengals moved the ball all day against Tennessee.
Yeah, no, they look good. There are 2 bets I made that I really regret. It was Green Bay and Tennessee. Like I put those in because I made my lines, and then as soon as I saw it, I was like, nah, if Dalvin Cook's healthy, he's going to run roughshod. I didn't think to this extent over the Packers. And then I was like, Titans are on the road after a war, and Burrow's going to move the ball against them. I thought the Titans were going to score a lot more points also, but and I just sometimes I'm like, it's annoying because it's like when I set the line initially, I'm not thinking that hard about it. I'm just sort of what seems like about right for me. Yeah. But I should be really thinking hard about it. No, I actually want to be in the Bengals, so I'll make it 5.5 or something. Or I really want to be on the Vikings, so I'll make it 5. But then again, I thought I made it 7.5 for both of those, and it's like once you see the actual line, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee the market number. So then you go back and think, oh, this is what I would have done, but you can't really do it that way. Anyway, it's just annoying because as soon as I saw those and realized what side I was on, I was like, I'm on the wrong side.
Yeah. The thing is, I think one thing about our process, and we do guess the lines. You do it even earlier than I do, but I guess the lines Monday night / Tuesday morning, and then we do it on air on Tuesday. I almost feel like sometimes we get locked in on that too. Once we do that, that sets our whole process for the week. But you don't really have to make your picks until Wednesday. I understand sometimes first impressions are the best impressions, but not always. Sometimes we get locked into that process.
But we don't. It's not like Wednesday's that late either. I mean, sometimes it's by Friday. I'm like, I hate my picks because 2 days have gone by and news has come in, but we lock it in Wednesday. So and I lock mine in Wednesday morning Portugal time, which is basically Tuesday late night U.S. time. So, when I lock them in, it's not that much different. It's just I really I don't know. I'm very torn on the whole thing. It's like, look, with the public betting, when you're talking about NFL bets where information's public, that no one's really got good private information. So it's not like there's somebody with an edge that way, really. So everything's public and everything's sort of priced into the line to a large extent. The question is, are you better off being sort of a numbers better, bet the number, not the team, just, try to get a good number and do it that way? Or are you better off just saying, trying to sort of surf the wave, which is I see this team's perform well 2 or 3 times in a row, but I see the tide turning. And I used to just be like that. I just sort of get a feel for, okay, it's just like a sense of teams teams make adjustments over time, and they don't always adjust right away. Different teams take different amounts of time to switch what they're doing and fix it. But you sort of got to and then the market prices them based on their past history. And then you got to sort of know when to get off the train at the right stop and get back on a different one, and just get the feel for it. Now you're going to be wrong all the time because it's not something you can know with any kind of rigor or certainty. But I'm sort of jealous of my old ways, even though they weren't necessarily working that great either. And I had my huge year a couple of years ago doing it this way. I'm sort of I felt like Green Bay and Tennessee was time to get off the train with these lines. But I was like, oh no, I already made the line. I'm going to stick to my method.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if that's to blame for my performance or lack thereof. I got slaughtered this week, and the early after the early games, I was like 1-8 or something. I was really
2-7. I was 2-7.
Yeah.
And I was staring down 2-10, but miracle upon miracles.
Oh
Denver,
my God. There was
then Chicago. I mean, and honestly, the Niners should have maybe pushed if they had gotten the ball, but that stupid roughing the passer penalty or whatever, the unnecessary roughness penalty, when Russell Wilson fakes a slide, the defender goes to hit him, and then he actually slides and goes down to the defender's helmet level and gets hit, and they throw a flag, and it was the most nutless penalty. It's like, dude, no, you can't do that. If you're going to look like you're going head first and the guy can hit you in the waist or the midsection, and then you lower the level of your head as he's in his dive and then try to call it a slide, that's no good.
I agree.
And so that cost them a first down. It would have been like 3rd and 8 or something. And if the Niners get the ball back down 10, maybe they chew up the clock getting a push, it's not a cover, but a push on that touchdown. And then Seattle sits on it and it's 30-27 final. So that, again, I'm pushing my luck because I got so lucky on Denver and Chicago, but all three were going the other way.
Yeah, that was wild. That was really wild the afternoon. I have to discard my comprehensive Rivers is the Chargers problem theory. It is no longer a Rivers issue. Right. This is too many times now. I mean, that was unreal. I mean, the Chargers were housing them 24-3. How do you do that?
I don't know why they got into such a shell, like why they just kept running it. I mean, I don't know when teams are going to figure out, forget about the clock, unless it was like the Super Bowl where it's 28-3 and you just needed that field goal by Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan got sacked. It took him out of field goal range and that cost them. But generally when there's like 15, 17, 18 minutes left and you've got a 3-touchdown lead, don't start sitting on the ball.
Right.
Yes, you take away some of the variance, but like you just score another touchdown and it's over. That's all you got to do. And then, only when you get down to like there's really mathematically no way if you just go 3 and out and punt it back to them every time that they can do anything. And when they start needing onside kicks and miracles, then you can sit on the ball. Then you can just hand it off and go right into the line.
Yeah. And the Denver tried to give it back. I mean, Denver was like running Melvin Gordon into the pile on the 2-minute drill.
I have Melvin Gordon. He got 6 catches for like 20 yards, and they were terrible play calls. It was like, dude, you guys got to hurry up.
Right.
And they luckily got that pass interference penalty against Albert O, where I don't think he has any chance of coming down with that, but you never know, and you can't interfere. And then they got stuffed twice again, and then it was like, okay, it's 3rd down, right, when they got that KJ Hamler touchdown?
Yeah, it was the last play of the game, though, too. I mean,
it was the last play of the game.
Yeah,
the clock,
and the thing is, even on that PI, not only was he not unlikely to come down with it inbounds, but also the defender had started to turn his head. It was close. It was so close. I mean, I could see not calling it. The Ravens-Steelers game, there was a lot of commentary on Twitter. You don't call that. On that hit in the end zone, that was the high-low hit. That's been called so many times in the NFL, defenseless receiver, etc. But, we can't call that to decide a game. Well, fast forward to Denver. They called it to decide the game. I mean, that was the game.
Yeah, that was good. Maybe they didn't get stuff. Maybe you're right. There was one play left at that point.
It was in fact, it was a timeless play. It was
0, right? Yeah, it was a pass from first to the end zone, one untimed play, and then they got it to Hamler. That was like a tough throw, and it wasn't obvious either. So
right.
It was insane. It was. But I needed it so badly because now I'm 5-8 after winning the Eagles. Like that's bad. But it's not like
I'm like 4-9. It's bad. I think I did the Saints instead of the Bears. I got to double check that, but yeah, I did the Saints instead of the Bears. I did have the Seahawks, so I got that side of it. But
so one of my decisions for prime time was, I had Prescott. I lost him. Minshew as my backup, so I picked up Mayfield for way too much money, and then the winds, all the windiness in that game, so. I picked up Darnold. I don't know why I didn't pick up Drew Lock instead, but I picked up Darnold for $1 just in case. And so it was Darnold or Mayfield. And I put a poll out there on Twitter, and I wisely went with Mayfield, who scored 9 because Darnold got 8.75.
Nailed it.
Made the right call.
Nailed it. All right, Chris. So in prime time, I had a mess on my hands. I lost OBJ just like you did. And, scrambling to pick him up. I also have CeeDee Lamb, who I was like, I can't start him with confidence anymore. This is it just sucks. Can't do it. So I made a couple pickups. I picked up Kendrick Bourne.
Good one, yeah, that worked.
Yeah, only because of garbage time. It was all like fourth quarter add-on stats. He had like 2 catches going into the fourth quarter, but he went like 8 for 82. So that got me through the week. And Nelson Aguilar, who I was pretty excited about, and all of a sudden, like and it was like, okay, he can catch now. Oh, he's okay. 0, big fat 0 yesterday, and that was all because of the wind, I think. But he did nothing. And I had Lamb on my bench, and Lamb only got me 8 points. So I still got a problem at wide receiver, basically.
So I picked up Jalen Reagor. I might have drafted him. I think I drafted him, when he was hurt before the season started. I picked him up everywhere, which I'm happy about. We'll see. I mean, he had a decent game, but he only had 3 catches. And I have Slayton going tonight. I've got 121, but I won the week already, thankfully. But I also have Antonio Brown coming next week, and I have Debo, who's hurt, and I have Mecole Hardman on my bench, who had 22 points, who I wish I had started. And of course, I have Metcalf. So I feel like I've got enough receivers on that team. It's just the running backs that were so deep. I have Kamara, and Chubbs cannot get back soon enough. And then quarterback, I'm in trouble because I've got like $38 left, and my quarterbacks are Mayfield and now Darnold and Minshew. Minshew probably hurt. I might have to drop him. Of course, I'm going to drop Darnold. So there's just crap on the waiver wire, and Mayfield is not good enough to roll with. I can't. No. I'm not going to win the NFFC. If I even get to the playoffs, which is, I'm like, I think I would make them today. I don't know. It's very close, but it's not enough. I need to get a quarterback, and I'm not sure that guy's on the waiver wire. Maybe someone will need a roster spot who has 3 good quarterbacks and drop somebody, but quarterback is my big issue, which, it seems like ridiculous. Like, oh, it's easy to find a quarterback, but not in a league with 10-man benches where people have 2 or 3.
I don't know if there's a solution out there, to be honest with you, Chris. All the guys were waiting to get the chance to get the jobs have got the jobs too. It's not like there's another Tua out there.
Well, Bridgewater. Oh, Daniel Jones got dropped by somebody. That's a great solution. This is good because he's going to probably not have a good game tonight. I mean, he might be okay, but it's a tough defense. So he could be available. I don't have much to spend, but Daniel Jones is the kind of guy. The Giants actually have a really hard schedule for the next couple of weeks, but they're going to get an easy schedule at like week 12, 13, 14. So, 12 through 15 is easy. So he could actually be an option for your playoffs.
Yeah, he could be. It's tough in a league like that, and in a super flex league, you're screwed. I mean, basically,
No, you're stuck. Forget it. Yeah, no, it's not even worth.
Right. You're going after like Jake Luton or Mike Glennon, and neither of those are really answers.
No, they're not answers. Andy Dalton's still there if I were desperate. Mitch Trubisky could get the job back at some point. That's where we're at.
Yeah. So, I'm going to have to keep finding wide receivers, keep bidding on them. I'm not ready to give up on Aguilar, though, either. I don't think this was on him. I think this game was just a wash.
Oh, you can never give up on Nelson Aguilar, Jim.
No, clearly not.
Former first-round pick.
Clearly, I got to keep the faith on that one there. But, the sequence that killed me was Josh Jacobs. 3 shots from the 2 and 1 yard line. I thought he got in on the second one, but they didn't do any replay on that. Got stuffed again, and then they settled for the field goal from like the inch line. Like, you kidding me? Just because they were going up 2 scores, it was the right decision, right. I think. But it was still annoying as all hell because Cleveland wasn't getting it done yesterday. They were the biggest bust of the day. I thought Kareem Hunt was going to go crazy. I guess the wind just destroyed everything in that game.
Yeah, it was very windy, and Hunt isn't the bulldozer that Chubb is. He's a good running back, but he's more of a pass catcher. He's more of a sort of all-purpose finesse guy. He's got some power, but he's not like the bulldozer that you need for a game with those conditions. I had Landry, and I started Mayfield in that prime time, and he threw a touchdown to Landry. I had Landry in another league.
Yep.
And got called back, and I needed it so badly. I was just so frustrated. Then he got another one that was kind of in his hands and got knocked out of his hands after he had it in his hands. He had basically 2 touchdowns that one was reversed on a call and one was, knocked out after he had it. So
he was the big play tease. I saw a couple people commenting on that on Twitter yesterday. That overturn was a killer. He had 11 targets too. Landry's going to be very busy the rest of the way.
Yeah, but he's not. He just doesn't really make a lot of big plays,
Right.
and it's going to be sort of Julian Edelman-esque, his season, and probably like the not the best version. I think Landry's a little banged up too.
Yeah, Landry. I mean, he is banged up. He's playing with a broken rib.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is it reminds me of the Miami days with him. There'll be games where he's very productive, but yeah, you're right. It's not big plays; it's volume.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So,
I'm
all
talking
right.
about volume. Like David Montgomery gets all the volume in the world, and
Oh,
he just can't get it done. He just cannot get it done.
that Bears offense is so tough to watch. Aikman was losing it yesterday. It was funny. Even though they got the tie with that field, it was like, I don't know what they're doing. You can't just keep going the dink and dunk. He was going nuts. It was hilarious.
Well, Aikman has been radicalized. Aikman used to be Mr. Apologist for the surrender punt, and there was a play. It was 4th and 2 from their own 20. They were only down 3. There was 2 minutes left in the third quarter. There was 17 minutes left in the game. And he's like, I just think they got to go for it here. You can't punt this back again after doing nothing. You got to go for it on their own 20. And I didn't necessarily disagree because, it was one of those things where your defense is on the field a lot and you just got to make a play, execute, get a first down, and then change the tenor of the game a little bit, make their defense play defense for a while.
Yep.
And they ended up punting. It was the one where you said, coward, just I think it was that same play where you're like, don't be a coward. They lined up as if they were going to go for it, and then they ended up punting.
Right.
But for Aikman to be advocating for a punt on your own 20, down only 3 with 17 minutes left in the game, like that was unheard of. He used to be advocating. He'd be like, yeah, you gotta do the conservative thing and punt when it was like, in plus territory on 4th and 3. So the things have shifted a lot in the last couple of years.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff going on. The Titans punted from the Bengals, I want to say the Bengals 36, because they missed a 53-yard field goal earlier. It's 4th and 12, so I understood why they didn't go for it, but it was a touchback. They gained 16 yards of field position. Yeah. It was cowardly.
Well, they probably weren't aiming for the touchback, but I would have gone on 4th and 12 probably there. But 50-plus yard field goals when your kicker is mediocre are not great propositions because it's only 3 points. If you miss, you get 7 yards back from where the line.
So just go for it. Just run a play.
But 4th and 12 is tough.
I get it. I understand.
Low percentage thing. If it's 4th and 7, it's a no-brainer. But 4th and 12, you're like, all right. I still think you should go for it probably, especially against the Bengals defense if you have the Titans offense. But
right,
that 30 yards of field position you could get if you get him inside the 10 might be worth, the small chance that you convert on 4th and 12. But then they didn't even execute the punt. As you said, it was a touchback.
Yeah. So, it's just they just seemed off, and I think that's kind of normal. Like you said, they were in a war against the Steelers. They thought they were going to be in a war against the Bills the week before that. That was their big comeback from the COVID and all that. It's hard to be up 16 weeks of the season. A letdown is kind of normal. You would think against the Bengals, out of division, on the road, normal place to have a letdown. So I'm not really that worried about the Titans, to be honest with you.
No, I think the Titans are going to be good. I think the Titans are a real contender. I think Vrabel's got that team dialed in, and the Steelers, Ben needs to play better. He's a little shaky for me, but obviously the defense is really good. I kind of feel like the Titans are better than the Steelers, even though the Steelers are the undefeated team. And the Chiefs obviously are still the team to beat. I think if they're going all out with Mahomes and they're getting Hardman involved, it's still the best team. I don't care. Their defense is a little shaky. So I'd go Chiefs distant 1, and then I guess I'd say Titans 2, Steelers 3, but they're close. And then
I got to go Steelers 2 over the Titans. They beat the Titans straight up in Tennessee, no less.
Titans were playing a short rest. They had the whole COVID lack of consistent practice, and they only beat the Titans because the Titans missed a field goal. That
was just a tie, so they could have still beaten them.
Right.
They were the winning team all along. And no, the Titans had a normal rest that week. Remember, they played the Bills, then the Texans, then the Steelers.
But they were coming off 2 games of short rest and into the third game, so they were and they had it maybe it was sort of a lag effect of not having having 3 games in two calendar weeks or something. But they dominated the second half of that game, and I don't know. They look like the better team to me. Steelers got off quickly, but the Titans look like the better team to me than the Steelers.
Steelers dominated the first half just as much as the Titans dominated the second half, though. I mean, both halves count.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the Steelers' offense could not execute, and the defense is good, but offense is 2/3, defense is 1/3. Like, in my opinion, like I think like the defense, especially with these rules that we have these days, it's like once the defense gets worn out or the offense starts cooking, the defense is like there's no defense that's good enough to shut you down. There's no defense that's good enough these days. The best defense these days is like, you don't have like those, vaunted defenses of the 80s that won Super Bowls. Maybe or the Ravens defense. Maybe one will emerge. Maybe Tampa will be that or the Steelers, but
yeah.
Give me the offense.
We got Bucs Saints next week, so that should be a pretty good game. Looking forward to that.
Should be, yeah.
Of course, not as much as Bucs Giants. I'm really looking forward to that, Chris. But,
I'm looking forward to it. I've got Slayton in a couple places, and I kind of feel like it might be a look ahead game to the Saints. The Giants been off 11 days.
Yeah.
They may pull a Bengals-esque offensive line doesn't play horribly for once. and the Bucs, it's like they're up for it and then the defense steps up, gets some pressure on Brady. I don't know. I don't really think the Giants are going to win, but I definitely like the Giants on the points. Now they could get obviously crushed, but it just sets up well for the Giants, I think.
Well, I got bad news for you because I think I also took the Giants in this game, so you're probably screwed. But
I think we got this, Jeff. We got this one.
All right. Well, we'll close on that. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. We got Jake and Joe tomorrow talking free agents. Please, as always, subscribe, rate, and review the pod. We really do appreciate it. Hit that like button on YouTube as well. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.